My project focused on foster care in YA novels, a closer look at the foster care system in America. My project looked at foster care in YA novels, a closer look at the foster care system in America. The 3 books that I focused on were Pushing the Limits by Katie McGarry, 3 Little Words by Ashley Rhodes Curtier, and Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein. The essential questions I focused on were: what issues arise when a child is placed in foster care? Can a child who is in foster care or adopted feel as loved as a child who is kept with their natural birth parent? And why do children in the foster care system seem to have more issue than their peers? The conclusions that I took away after reading the 3 novels were that foster care kids are not always from bad homes. Their parents were not always the parents we see portrayed on TV and movies, and sometimes foster kids come from very loving homes, and that is what makes the transition for them even harder. Another conclusion that I found is that there are several flaws in the current foster care system. There are far too many reported cases of neglect and abuse as evidenced in the novels, which were both nonfiction and fiction, and the articles that I read. Every foster care placement is unique, whether it's the foster care parents themselves or the situations that brought them to the foster care system. There's something special in every case. Lastly, what I realized the most was that anyone can make it through the foster care system. Even if at times they are faced with neglect and abuse, children in placement have to overcome obstacles and not fall into a victim mindset. The supplemental readings that I read were a New York Times article entitled In a Loving Foster Family But Missing Home. And essentially it just talked about that even though there's lots of good foster care parents, it doesn't negate the fact that a lot of the foster care children were always going to miss home, and the best result was to have them back with their natural birth parents. For another supplemental reading, I watched a TED Talk by Molly McGrath Tierney, and she talked about rethinking the foster care system and gave lots of insights of how we could enhance the foster care system if we started having tighter regulations and standards. And then lastly, I read a CNN article entitled We Are Abandoning Children in Foster Care. And pretty much as the title states, it just talks about how there are so many things going on in the foster care system that essentially we're leaving children in worse off positions. Overall, my experience with this project was thankful. I was thankful I was given the time to look into a topic that helped me understand the foster care system more. And I think it will only help me as a teacher understand my students more, especially my students who I know have been in and out of the foster care system. And lastly, I just wanted to show these are the sources for the books that I read and the supplemental articles.